Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. I've lived on my family's farm just outside of town for as long as I can remember. The 40 acres of land has been in my family for over 100 years, passed down from generation to generation. When the town incorporated decades ago, our farm was zoned as agricultural since it had always been a working farm. My grandparents grew vegetables to sell at the local market, and my parents raised chickens and goats when I was a kid. Now in my 50s, I keep some chickens for eggs and grow corn and hay to sell to local farms. Our land being zoned agricultural means I can farm it without too many restrictions from the town. Or at least that's what I thought until last week. I woke up one morning to a knock on my front door. Standing there was a man in a suit who introduced himself as John, the town's code enforcement officer. He handed me a piece of paper. A citation for violating a town ordinance against excessive noise. John told me I was being fined $500 for my rooster crowing too loudly too early in the morning. I was flabbergasted. My old rooster Rufus has been around for years and never caused any trouble. I asked John what ordinance I had violated. He pointed to a note on the citation referencing Town Code 43-21 about noise limits on residential properties. Residential properties? I told John my farm was zoned agricultural, not residential, but he said the rules had been updated recently to apply those noise limits to agriculture zones as well. This made no sense to me. Farms have roosters, they crow. That's just life when you live in the country. I informed John I had no intention of paying this ridiculous fine for having a normal rooster do what roosters do naturally. He shrugged and said I'd receive a court summons if I refused to pay. As soon as John left, I called my buddy Greg, who sits on the town council. He was just as surprised as me. The council had definitely not voted to update zoning rules lately. Greg did some asking around and found out the mayor and his cronies on the town planning commission had quietly made these zoning changes without proper approval. They were trying to crack down on farms and force them to adhere to strict residential rules, even though we were zoned agriculture. Sneaky bastards. I was not about to let them get away with finding me out of nowhere and trying to regulate my farm out of existence. Greg helped me file an appeal and request a hearing in front of the town council to contest my citation. Meanwhile, I rallied my farming neighbors, who were also outraged at this tyrannical overreach. The night of the hearing arrived, and the council chambers were packed with fuming farmers. I presented my case, arguing the citation was invalid since my property was zoned agriculture and the supposed ordinance changes has never been properly voted on. Other farmers backed me up, speaking passionately about generations of farming history and our right to farm as we always had without these new restrictive rules. The mayor sat there scowling while we spoke. When it came time to rule on my appeal, the council members voted unanimously to waive my citation and revoke the improper zoning changes. The vote was a huge victory for me and for the farming community who came together and stood up to the mayor's backdoor scheming. I wish I could say the mayor learned his lesson after his underhanded plan was exposed, but I won't hold my breath. In the meantime, Rufus still greets each sunrise with his proud crow, just as he always has, and I can sleep easy knowing I successfully protected my family's generations-old farming rights from oppressive overreach by corrupt politicians. Our rural way of life is safe, at least for now. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I used to work in an office, and the type of work isn't particularly important to the story, so just picture a basic office job. Every January, HR would send an email to all employees with the employee handbook. This included job descriptions, office policies, etc. Every year since the PDF handbook had been established, it would be named with the year following it to establish that it was different from the original and all other years. Any changes would have been updated next to the section in the table of contents, so you could see what had changed from the previous year and familiarize yourself with anything new. Now, with that background, let's introduce Karen. Karen had been with the company for a pretty long time, about 10 years, I believe. She was fine at her job, just fine. She would get things done, but not without making everyone else miserable in the process. She would ask questions that had already been answered and basically waste everyone's time for fun. She was just plain nasty to people and tried as hard as she could to make everyone stay far away from her. The worst thing about her was she always seemed to be looking for a fight, or looking for a reason to complain. She had threatened lawsuits a few times over any small thing, but would always get over it and drop it because she knew no laws had been broken and it would never go anywhere. She'd comment on how she should sue basically every business she ever went to because she could live off the settlement and retire early, over the smallest issues you can imagine. She did her job, and we never had a valid reason to fire her, especially knowing how lawsuit happy she was, so she stayed. Karen's job description, as per the handbook, called for a bachelor's degree. Karen did not have a bachelor's degree but had been hired prior to that being a requirement, so she was grandfathered in. One day, a position above hers became open. A guy who we will call Terry had recently completed his master's degree after taking night classes for a few years, and since an internal promotion is typically better than an outside hire, he was chosen for the promotion. Terry had been at the company for about 4.5 years and was well liked and great at his job. The new job required a master's degree in its job description, and him being a recent grad, it was a perfect fit, and everyone was happy for him. Everyone but Karen. Since she was constantly looking for something to sue about, she took it as a direct insult that she had not been considered for this promotion that she was not at all qualified for. She immediately cried discrimination and told our boss her lawyer would be in touch. We were all perplexed since it was very clear that this position required a master's degree, and given that she didn't even have a bachelor's degree, there was no way she could have been hired for the role. What we soon realized was that Karen had saved the original company handbook named Company Handbook and had not bothered to open or save any new editions that were sent in the following 8 years. She just assumed no changes had been made and that it was just sent every year to ensure all employees had it. If she had bothered to open the file, she would have seen the sections that said "updated" in the table of contents. Since Karen cried lawsuit a lot, no one expected much of this since it was a ridiculous claim, but sure enough, Karen gives her resignation letter via email, and it is scathing about how she can't bear to work in such a discriminatory environment that would only promote men. When any higher-ups try to speak to her about this and clear up the confusion, she basically tells them to duck off and to read the damn email. I don't know any more of an explanation. She basically goes full Karen. Not long after, a letter comes in from her lawyer asking for a settlement to avoid a discrimination case. What Karen hadn't realized was that our boss's sister-in-law owned a law firm. She didn't really take on clients herself anymore, and mostly just managed the other lawyers of her firm. She was basically semi-retired. What this meant was she had plenty of time to review any letters from Karen's lawyer and advise us. Since Karen didn't bother to read any of the updated handbooks, she was unaware that this position had required a master's degree for many years now, I believe about 6 years. She supplied her lawyer with the original company handbook from 9 years ago, and he used that as reference in his settlement demand. This was when we realized she hadn't read any new handbooks in years. Since Karen rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, boss's sister-in-law decided to personally take on the case. Every letter Karen's lawyer sent, she sent back one 3 times in length. Some of it wouldn't even really say anything, just wordiness, but it would certainly take Karen's lawyer a while to read it, and he did not come cheap. After several of these letters, they realized no settlement is going to happen. They want to take it to court. It's a pretty cut and dry case. Boss's sister-in-law shows evidence that Karen has received all updates via email. After the change was made and the handbook sent out, HR even sent an email to Karen specifically letting her know that she was grandfathered in and doesn't need to worry, to which Karen replied, "Okay, thank you," confirming receipt of it. The best part was when boss's sister-in-law said that they couldn't break company rules to give Karen a job she was totally unqualified for while neglecting another employee who went above and beyond to get his master's degree to advance, as that would be unfair to all other employees. Karen now had a huge, seriously huge bill from her lawyer for all of these letters and filing the case, etc. No job, no one she could list as a positive recommendation, and no degree. In the time she had been at the company, it had become industry standard to require a bachelor's degree, so she was effectively shut out of her career. It would also be hard to explain how you worked somewhere for a decade and don't have a letter of recommendation from anyone there, if she had only read her damn emails. The next one is a petty revenge story. I, 23-year-old female, worked at a call center about a year ago, and it was a small office with a business casual dress code policy. For reference, I am 5'3" and have a pear shape with big thighs and a C-cup chest. I'm on the curvier side, but still big. I had always been very insecure and had body image issues, but then I became very confident. I was very nice and always smiling at people, as well as dressing in clothes that appealed to my shape. Yes, they were a little tight, but there was no cleavage or short dresses/skirts. I don't know if it's conceited of me to say this, but I have come a long way since being the shy, baggy-clothed duff from my high school. Well, there's this woman who is well into her 40s, and she is big too. She would come in with Crocs, baggy pajama pants, and super baggy shirts with bed hair. She would always stare at me, almost in anger, or talk about me as well. I never cared because I had gotten used to it, until she started becoming bolder by coming up to me and nitpicking my clothes. For reference, the first time she came up to me, I had a long cardigan and a tube-top jumpsuit. I have a bigger bottom than my chest, so it came as a surprise when she said my breasts were out and that I needed to cover up. She proceeded to tug at my jumpsuit. I cried in the bathroom because of how embarrassed I was and went to my supervisor about this, asking if I was out of dress code. She said no and said she'd talk to her. Mind you, I didn't know they were besties. So I went about my shift. This happened 2 more times, and there was no resolution. My last straw came when she started making a scene in front of my coworkers. I was wearing a knee-length skirt with a sweater. As I was talking to a coworker and others were around, she came up and said, "Again! It's as if you're asking for attention." Confused, I looked around and asked what she meant. She pointed at my legs and said I'm practically naked. My skirt had lifted an inch up from my knee from shifting around in my seat. So I stood up and said out loud for everybody to hear, "Why do you constantly pick on me? Is it really my clothes, or is it something different like the color of my skin? I'm really curious because you constantly are messing with me and aren't even worried about your agents." She was a supervisor for a neighboring company cubicle but constantly by our desks to try and flirt with the male workers. She then started stuttering and darting her eyes around, realizing everybody started looking and standing from their desks. She quickly said, No, it's not like that. I'm just trying to watch out for you. You know, big girl to big girl. I just wasn't sure if you were okay with what you were wearing." I said, "Clearly I'm here working, and I have my own supervisor to let me know if I'm out of dress code." After that, it was nothing but smiles and constantly offering me snacks. Sorry for the long post, but it still makes me chuckle to this day. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Several years ago, I was working for an organization, and they were having their annual holiday decorating competition between the different departments. There were a couple of departments that basically took turns winning every year because a few of the staff there went absolutely nuts with decorating. The departments gave a little budget toward this event, but a few staffers from those 2 departments put in their own money on top of the department funds and just created some insane over-the-top displays. I saw pictures from a few years. Some of them were very cool, but also probably took a few staffers a few days to set up, and probably cost at least $500 or more for decorations. That's not counting the staff hours that went into it. So my department had its own new office that year. In previous years, we had been in a small area behind another department. Some people didn't even know we were there. But that year, we were in a nice office space and on the ground floor. So my executive director decides we are going to compete. I think she just wanted to show off to her boss. So she tells me, "KG Capybara, since you'll be in the office working this weekend, you can make a good start on decorating the office for the competition." Me, I will be in the office this weekend, but that's because I'll be working on these projects. Remember, we need to be in a good place with these projects before the new year. Boss, well, no reason you can't do both. Spend a few hours decorating and the rest working. I had only planned to be in the office about 5 hours anyway, so a few hours decorating wouldn't leave me much time to devote to the projects. Me, I'd like to get these projects to a good place before our holiday. I'm also not much of a decorator. This is actually true. I moved 14 times in about 17 years. I think it killed any desire I may have had to decorate. And I'm a tomboy. Not very feminine in how I dress or present myself, which I think always bothered the boss lady, and not very good with decorating. Boss, are you refusing to help your coworkers with this? Note, refusing to help coworkers was a phrase she pulled out most anytime someone pushed back on her ideas. She came from the business world to a different industry and wanted to incorporate business ideas that didn't always work. Me, nope, I'll try to spend some time decorating then. That weekend, I stopped at a dollar store and bought several rolls of wrapping paper, put it on the department credit card. When I went into the office, I spent about 2 or 3 hours wrapping everything I could think of that was a stable object. Wrapped most of our desks, our filing cabinets, some bookshelves, some end tables we had in the front office area, basically making them unusable. Someone would have to break through the wrapping paper and ruin the decoration to get into their desk, or the filing cabinets, or the bookshelves. Everyone spent the next week not being able to functionally do some of their work because they couldn't get into their desk or filing cabinet. Our office had a very easy week right before the holiday. We didn't even place in the competition, and I heard the boss lady got scolded the next month by her boss because we were behind on the projects. The next one is an entitled people story. I went into this store during lunch because I thought it wouldn't be very busy. I was wrong. They sent me a 20% off coupon for my entire purchase, so I was planning to buy a few of those scent pod things. Anyway, I had the coupon sticking out of the front pocket of my purse. Not super far. It was safely tucked into the front pocket. I don't know why anyone would notice it there. I never look at other people that closely when I'm out shopping. I kind of just keep my eye on the prize, so to speak, not looking around at other people's purses, that's for sure. So I'm looking at the scent pods, smelling some, staying in my lane, and someone taps my shoulder. I turn around and this lady asks, "Are you going to use that coupon?" I'm really taken aback because I'm literally in the store that the coupon is for. If I'm shopping in the store with a coupon, I'm probably going to use it. So even though I'm usually polite, I'm shocked enough by being interrupted by such a brazen question that I say, "Yes, that's why I'm here." She says, "Oh, the 20% off coupon?" Me, "Yes." I try to turn back around. She taps me again. "Well, do you think they'll let both of us use it?" Me, well, I don't think so." At this point, she changes her tone and gets rude with me. "Well, how do you know? Have you asked before?" Now, I am not the most assertive person, so I was like, "Well, I could ask when I go up to the register." This lady holds her hand out and says, "Well, you can let me try it first, and then I'll ask them." And I'm just standing there staring at her, like, what the heck? The audacity. And does she think I'm dumb? Like, sure, you use the coupon first on your stuff, then ask if I can use it when they'll inevitably say no and I'll be the one out of luck. Shaking my head. So I finally just say, "No, sorry, I'll ask when I go up." And then I turn around and walk a few steps away. I tuck the coupon in deeper into my pocket because at this point she was bold, and I was worried she'd just grab it. She watches me for a while, but I keep looking at other things, trying to avoid eye contact. When I do go up to pay, the cashier just takes the coupon away and puts it in their register. I didn't even ask if I could use it again because I didn't want to be that person. Then I quickly walked out of the store, eyes forward so I wouldn't have to see this woman again, ha. This happened a few weeks ago, but I just found this subreddit today and it reminded me of it. I still can't believe people like that. And the thing is, she was already at the store with stuff in her bag. She was already planning to buy things. Nothing in that store is necessary, lol. She just spotted my coupon and thought, I could get this stuff cheaper, for goodness sake. The next one is an entitled parent story. So I, 18F, opened my own bank account a few months ago under my own name. Before I got my first paycheck, my mom told me that she'd like to check my purchases and how much money I spent on the account. Another problem is that I do have to give her some money for other reasons. I bought a new phone, secondhand. And when my mom asked me how much I spent on it, I lied and said that it was 300 euros, but it was actually 420 euros. I earn 1,400 euros monthly, and yesterday she asked me how much money I have left, and I said that I have like 800 euros left, which is true, BC. I had to pay my mom 60 euros that I owed her. I also used the money to buy things that I really need. I wanted to buy the important things now. Do that, I won't have to worry about my second paycheck. The problem is that I sell old clothes online, BC. I need as much money as possible to move out of this sickening household. But when I sent the packages to my clients, I was too lazy to go to the bank and withdraw the money for the post. So I just used my card. Yesterday, my mom wanted to see my bank account and asked me if I got the statement of my account, BC. I tried to get it, but it says that I have no statement. She doesn't believe me, though. I didn't want to show her my online banking account. So I blocked it. I just feel so uncomfortable showing her what I spend my money on, BC. It's my privacy. I also don't understand why she feels so entitled to know. It's my money, and I worked hard for it. But the problem is that my mom is a huge drama queen. Saying no will only give us more trouble. But I also don't want to explain myself, BC. I don't need to. I just don't want any trouble, BC. I'm tired. I wanted to rush to the bank and see if I can get the statement and hide them. Today is my grandma's birthday. My mom told me to gift her some money. Do I thought about getting another statement once I withdraw the money for my grandma, so that my mom will finally leave me alone? This situation is stressing me a lot. I woke up anxiously, BC. I hate having to worry about things that aren't actually a problem. I don't know why my parents make me feel bad for spending my own money on things that I really need. It's too much stress for me. Thankfully, they don't have my account details and don't have any access unless I let them, but I'm scared that they might force me to do so. I just want her to leave me the duck alone. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.